Hello and welcome. Welcome to Film Study, an All American Universe podcast with Lexi. I'm Lexi. Here, me and Monda are about to talk about the second half of episode 507, the mid-season finale, Hate It or Love It. We talked about sort of Patience and Coop and gave our ratings in the first half of this, and now we're going to be talking about Spencer and Jordan and Liv and Olivia and Jordala and all of that good stuff. So don't forget to like, subscribe, share, rate the podcast 5 stars, comment your thoughts below, and I hope that you enjoy it. Liv's accomplishments. I'm gonna start this with that. Somebody said this episode seemed like it was somebody said, I think the writers and producers apologizing to the character of Olivia, and I was just like, why would they need to apologize to her?
Right.
The storylines are written in
Far in advance.
Far in advance. Storylines are mapped out in far in advance. So when they had Olivia wanting to do this article in 420, they already knew that they were going to come back and do an episode where everybody realizes that she was right.
She was right. Because
So this is one of the
Michael and them has said it on Michael said it on social media, like, y'all will find out that she's right. Like, everyone knew that this was coming around. We just happened to
exactly. So
see
what are we
it on
talking
TV.
about? This
Yeah.
is no, the writers are not that, and this is where it's just like, I appreciate people's passions, but I wish that people would just understand a little bit more about the things that they're saying. Like it.
Like, there's points where there's like rewrites and tweaks and different things, and scenes are redone, as we found out with 506, I believe. Yeah. But there's definitely, it's already mapped out. Like, people know ahead of time. Like, when Michael said he knew about Jordala, like, by the end of season 3, what was going to happen. When like Michael said, everyone find out that Liv was eventually light in his social media. I had told somebody on Twitter. I said, Sam knew when Sam was doing those interviews this summer that Olivia was gonna be broken up and Spencer was gonna have a new girl on the side. And people's like, no, she knew. They know ahead of time. It's mapped out. They get the actors a heads up, like, this is what's gonna happen, because they also have to be mentally ready and prepared for what that shift is gonna be.
Yeah.
And
And
I need
here's the
people to
thing. Sometimes they don't. So to that point, like did you say I think Michael said that he knew at the end of season 4, right?
Season 4.
Yeah.
No, he
So
said 3.
no, he said season 4. So there's big arcs, right? There's big
Right.
arcs that they tend to let them know and say, generally your character is going in this direction. Here's
Right.
a quick aside on TV writing. But the character details, writers have to keep, and that's the other thing, is people are like, we get things on the other side as well, and they're just like, okay, so why didn't they, this shows that it was rushed, because why didn't XYZ know that this was going to happen to their character? Because the writers can't telegraph
Right.
what they're gonna do to a character. And like, legitimately, I was reading a book on TV writing, and somebody was just like, I accidentally told a character that they were gonna die in the next episode, right? And that's a really big no-no. Like, you can only give the actor, generally, you can only give the actor, like, up until like what script they have, essentially.
Right.
For like really specific details. For longer character arcs, it's like, okay, your character is gonna say, for Jordan learns a lesson. We're just using Michael always, but Jordan learns a lesson in season 2 about, him partying, right? Like, that's very general and very vague,
Very
but it
general.
still gives him an idea of where his character is going, that he's gonna go through this tough time, but they're not gonna reveal the details, like, oh, actually Simone's really not, I'm sure he didn't know that Simone that he
Yeah, he
wasn't the
did.
father
Yeah.
until they had that script in their hand. So it's like those types of things where it's like they're going to know the overall trajectory
Right.
in a very general sense, but these details they're not going to know until they need to know.
Right. But they will know in a sense of, like, they knew they were breaking up. We knew. Well, let me take that back, because we knew a whole lot about that relationship that was going to
Yeah.
happen. And because it's the ebb and flow of when you watch a television relationship. I just find it odd that there's a lot of people
And
who
even if they
watch.
didn't know, I could feel like they could
I
guess.
know they
Just
could have
depending.
figured it out.
Exactly.
Right. But the thing is, I find it interesting with with not just Spolivia fans, but all American fans, is that Spolivia follows the trajectory of any like relationship on television.
Any
And,
relationship on
and
television.
so
But you would think
with
that they didn't. You would think that this was like a special case.
right, you would think it's a special case because Sam and Daniel's chemistry is off the charts, and we get that. But they still follow an ebb and flow, people. It's an ebb and flow. And then if you then just place them who their characters are and how their development should come along, you can kind of pinpoint some things
You
of
can,
what's going
and
to happen.
here's how we know you can pinpoint some things because we did it. We
Yeah,
did it.
yeah,
And here's, I was sorry, because now that we've gotten on this topic, and
yes,
it's like, it's okay. Like, I, there's this thing that like people think that actors are like as into the overall storyline as we are as fans, and actors have to be so singularly focused on
yes.
their character and what their character and what their character is doing in any given scene. Like, I don't think people realize it's like it's not even the full episode, it's what their character is doing in any given scene because they have to focus on the scene at hand. And so it's the best example I can give of this is when Daniel admitted, I didn't get the connection between Spolivia up until when
Until
we
that
were
hug.
shooting, up
Yes,
until we were shooting the hug scene. Again, it wasn't shooting episode 1, right, of season 3. It
right.
was up until we were physically shooting the
Three
scene
one.
where Spencer, what is it? He holds on to Olivia longer.
A
Like,
little
that
bit
was the
longer.
line.
Sam
Because
got it, but he didn't get it at that to that point.
and that's okay because
Hey,
they
it's
have to be
okay
singularly focused
because
on
he
the
has a lot of
story that they are
scenes.
telling. Exactly, that the story that they are telling in that moment. And so like we think like it's everything seems like so huge to us because we're looking at things as a whole, but
They're looking at it in
really
parts.
that's not the mind of the actors a lot of the time because they have to be focused on what the task at hand is, and delivering multiple takes of the scene that we see is super cut together. They're actually the ones that are doing those 10 takes. So I had to get that out there. I had to
Well, we're
get that
gonna
off my
roll into
chest.
Liv's accomplishments because she's fabulous.
Yeah, how did we get on this?
Because
Anyway.
I start talking about stuff around Liv, and then we went in that whole tangent. So please forgive me, audience. I
So
take her on a
that was,
tangent.
yeah, that was not my fault,
That was
audience.
all me. Just
But
blame
I'm
me.
glad. But I am glad that we got to elaborate a little bit on where storylines go overall, and like what the actors may or may not know, what they may guess, right,
Yeah.
versus what is actually told to them and
Because
when it's told to
we were
them.
talking about we knew that Liv would come around to this accomplishment.
Yes, okay.
That's how
So
we got.
back to Liv's accomplishments that we knew that
Yes,
they were going to come around to, because they, and actually, you know what? It was my fault because I did say, I was just like, they had this plan far in
because
advance.
they do.
Because
We
yeah, because
knew.
again, I just so yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Like the
Leave it at
writers,
that.
the writers knew that Liv would have this
Yes, and
opportunity
she
to
deserved
sit in
every
her,
bit
and she
of
did,
it.
and she deserved it. And you know who was right there at her side in the beginning?
Can I say who was right at her side at the beginning?
Go
Because this is
ahead,
gonna
say
put a
it.
smile on your face. It
Go
was
ahead.
Layla, and I'm not calling her Layla.
Oh,
Layla.
look
I
at that.
gave it to her. Layla, impatience, giving her that full love that she
Give it
deserved,
up. Give it
calling her the
what? Give it up for
queen.
who? Who, Monda?
Layla,
No, no, no.
impatience.
Oh, no, no. I was saying, what? Who are they giving it up for?
They've given to live in her
To
full love.
Queen Liv. To
Queen
Queen
Liv.
Liv.
Because they literally called her Queen Liv because she is a queen. She is a
Boom.
queen.
Boom. Uh, and so again, for people who suggest that
Liv was wrong. She's just
that
going to ruin
Liv was
everything.
wrong, that she doesn't have any friends, that she
Well, you know
that
how
no
I feel
one
about
is
that friendship
supporting her.
thing. Like,
Let me have this moment, Wanda. That no one is supporting her. But you like, come on, Vi. Like people were taking it to an extreme, were
they
they
were
not?
taking it to a deeper stream. You would have thought that Liv had came into their own house, snatched their babies out of their hands, and gave
Literally.
them up for an adoption.
Well,
How
even
they were
on
going.
the other side, you would think that every character on the show treated it Liv like Coop treated Liv. Like,
Yes.
come on, like,
It
Come
was
on.
it was not the case. It was
It
not the
was
case.
not the case. It was
Hoop just
not the
needs to get out
case.
that house. Hoop, I
Exactly.
need to
Like
get out that
people
house.
people projected how Coop was treating Liv and how the guys were treating Liv
As if
onto every
everybody.
character on the
Mhm.
show and literally were saying nobody cared. Like I couldn't get with that. And come
Yes.
for me if you want. I don't care. Wow, maybe I just need to do episodes tired is what I'm figuring out. So I'm just like
It's
I don't care.
you know,
Say what I'm gonna say.
it was good to see that she got her props and was called a queen. It was good to hear that Garrett was not going to get a job at what is called Bryson's University. But I want to know
It
how
was
long that
good to
got.
see. It was good to see Christel. And again, this is when I love when the writers address the audience through characters because they had Liv talking about the program and everything that was happening with the fallout of the program. And what did they have Christel say? Garrett ruined the
Did the
program.
program
Because
literally stated that you didn't
there's a
do
lot of people in the comments talking about some live da da da
it?
live da da da.
No, Garrett ruined the program. She shed a light onto what Garrett was doing, but he ruined that program from the
Period.
start. He ruined it, injuring people, injuring his own people. He did that.
And so literally it was just a train of love for Liv because as she gets this
Happy
celebration in the
birthday,
office,
Kate.
which by the way the cake that they got her in the office said Jaden.
Jaden.
And we'll get to that later, but Laura comes back, or she's at Grandpa Willie's house. Laura comes in the door and they have just the most
The best scene.
heartfelt scene because Laura always knows what to say. She
Mama
always knows what
Laura
to
be
say to her
tapped into
daughter.
her Livy.
Always. And so she encourages Liv to find peace in her accomplishments. And I literally just left that like Laura is the one. Laura
She
is
is.
she's
She's my
the
favorite
one.
parent on the show.
I love her so much, and so encouraging her, despite the fact that she had to use a pseudonym. And then we have and I'm just like I just want to talk about all of the people that were encouraging. Then we have her have that conversation with Jordan, which has been a long time coming. And
Oh
by a
my
long time
gosh.
coming I mean this has been in the wings and has been left unresolved since 416.
Long time coming. Would I tell you when that gentleman started opening up his mouth first and she didn't have to apologize and he just started talking about you did this, you were the one, you decided not to put your name on it to protect me and Spencer. You did
Right.
this is your accomplishment. And when he said, I am damn proud of you.
And
Oh,
outlined exactly what it is. Rule. There's gonna be rule changes in football because of what you did. Like it. It was just such a great moment between the two of them, and I've really missed the Baker scenes, the Baker family scenes,
I
excluding
d-
Billy.
I do. That Baker twin scene is really good. Here's a little caveat I have for it. Because some people on Twitter, which I slightly agree with, says he waited to say congratulations after he realized what good came out of it for him because he gets to open up his recruitment. But I'm
And
gonna
you
give
know
you
what?
that.
I'm
I'm
and you know what? People can say that I as a sibling, as a person that has three other siblings,
Yep. I have three as
that's
well.
just how it be. Like I
That's
don't
how
know,
it be
like
sometimes.
that's just how it be. Like of course,
Yeah.
like who cares? The fact is like that it happened, and that he recognized her accomplishments, and yeah, it ended up being good for him. But also, he said things that he didn't have to say. Like there will be rule changes in football because of what you did.
He what's also interesting is I love the fact that he told her how much he cared for her. I mean how proud he was of her and all the things. But then for her to come back was like, I didn't do that. You did that. That's your
Yeah,
work. Because
and
the
that she
one
was
thing
proud of him
that's
too.
yeah, because the one thing I think it was 417 is when he's like, "You don't care about me on the football team. You don't care about my accomplishment." Remember, and when you and I kept talking
Yeah,
about how she didn't have the opportunity to go and
and
find him.
yes, and
And,
really, if we're being honest, I said that was an unresolved conversation from 416. It was really an unresolved conversation from like 40 405 or something
yeah,
like that, when he was just like, nobody sees me as great.
Right. No one sees me as great. No one's and literally she literally came back and said, "No, I see you. You're the one doing this work. I'm proud of you." And for them two to get that from each other, because I don't let me be very honest with you all. Before there's a Spolivia for me, there's a Baker twins.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it real and I'm gonna keep it funky on this podcast. Before there's a Spolivia, there's a Baker twins, and I always root for the Baker twins, even though I want to sometimes drag Jordan and give him up for an adoption.
And by the way, can I give Jordan a little bit more props for people that said in response to people that were just like, oh, it's because he had the opportunity.
Yeah,
Jordan was in the beginning of the season one of the first people to actually, when he realized that he was wrong about Isaiah, was right there along with Liv, helping her out,
it
going to the
finding
valley.
people.
So
Even
let's
when he made
not
a mistake and brought Spencer to Slauson before
exactly.
telling her,
We'll not talk about that one, but yeah,
before he even
exactly.
did that mistake.
So he was there with her throughout. So to say that, oh, he only did this and only because of XYZ, he was right there by it. Listen, it's one of the most used gifs from this season is the little Baker twins both putting their arms in
Arm
the
crossing
chest
their
when she's going.
arms, yeah.
So like, come on, like
He has
don't
his
do him
ups
like
and
that.
downs
He
moments
has
about this article because it's also attached to who he is personally.
exactly, and
Because when
that's absolutely fine. It's
yes,
absolutely
very
fine that
fine
he's
because
allowed to have his ups and downs moment. And also, they're siblings. Like they're just gonna jab at each other and then come
and
back
they're
and have
not
these
just
really
siblings, they're
heartfelt moments.
twins.
Ex- Period.
And so they really gonna be jabbing at each other because they've been probably jabbing at each other since the womb. So
Boom.
it is what it is. They go forever come at each other. They go forever like mess with each other, but they go ride for each other no
And
matter
say, I'm
what.
so proud of you. And there couldn't be anyone more prouder than me.
Baby, because you know how long I've been waiting for that man to tell him he was proud. Because I've been messing with him since he
Yeah.
told Layla how proud of her she was. You know how I've been waiting, how long I've been waiting
He
for that.
didn't say
So
that. He said she was one of the strongest person.
yeah, but you
He
know
did.
how I felt about that
And
line.
what did Layla say? What did Layla say to Liv?
Oh my gosh, we are not going there.
I'm just saying because she did. Somebody didn't tell her that. I'm just speaking this fact. Where and it's so funny because you brought that up. I am gonna say what I was not gonna say. I was gonna say I don't know. There might be somebody giving Liv a run for her money on the proud, on the proud meter right now. There might be one. There might be one.
Whatever, whatever.
Anyway, so then taking all of those conversations, Liv has a conversation with Spencer. They have a nice conversation, and he's just like, she encourages him about everything that's going on with GAU, and he in turn says like, you, he in turn is like, I think you should forgive yourself for the fallout. Here's the thing. I
Go ahead.
I love the conversation up until that moment because I was just
Thank
like,
you.
what does she need to forgive herself for? Why does she need to forgive herself? Like, even if she was having like these doubts about blah blah, like why does he need to be the one to say that to her?
Right,
Why
right.
why is that even in his mind? Like he could have just said what we got with Laura, what we got with Jordan, just like I'm so proud of you, you need to find peace, like find your peace in this article. Why did he go to you need to forget? What does she need to forgive herself
Because
for?
Spencer, let me just tell y'all something. Because Spencer sometimes think that he has like, I can read you moments with Olivia Baker. And he's like, I'm reading you right now. And I know how you're feeling. So I'm going to tell you how you're
And
feeling.
there's gonna
How
be
you,
people in the comments that's just like, oh, because she wasn't forgiving herself. And I'm like, okay, still, but why did he need to say it?
why he
Why
need
did he
to
need to
say that
say
and
it?
how did he know that? And then y'all going to say, oh, because he can read her, blah, 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 blah. But let me tell y'all something. There's a time where he just don't need to keep adding words. He can just stop.
That I
He
think
can just
that's the
completely
thing with
stop.
me is like he could have just left it at I'm proud of you.
You.
And I think that means more than telling her to forgive herself.
Because she was
These are
already on that track of trying to
she was
understand
already on
that.
that track, and I think the writers often like try to have Spencer come in at these, he was the last person she talked to, so you often have Spencer come and try to come in and like say these things as like, okay, it's the final net, like she's been learning this lesson, going
And
through this
he has to
journey
be
in
the
this
one to put the
episode,
nail in the
and he
coffin.
has to be the final one to come in because he's the protagonist. But I'm like, sometimes
He doesn't
It's
need to.
okay to just let him say, I'm proud of you. Like he doesn't need to try and go, and I'm using try very specifically. He
Right.
doesn't need to try and go the extra mile to say things
Correct.
like you need to forgive yourself. Like I
Correct.
just that line felt so unnecessary to me.
It
And
did
yes,
feel
to me,
unnecessary.
I don't care. I mean,
No,
not me,
no, I
I don't
agree.
care.
Because we
But
both said that.
exactly, just for me, you might have a difference of opinion, whoever's listening in the audience, but for me, I just thought the comment was gratuitous.
You and I both, when we spoke about this after the episode on Monday, was we wish the order of who she spoke with was different
Yes,
too.
was different.
We wish
And
that
that
she ended
Jordan
with
was the
Mama
last
Laura.
conversation, because Jordan, that conversation, again, what we just talked about, that conversation was such a long time coming between the both of them, that I feel like that was really like the emotional pinnacle. Like Laura was the start, like really like Patience and Layla was the start of this, but Laura
Right.
in terms of like her accomplishments was like the start of, like, you could, and that's the thing, is like everybody else, like, no, going from Patience, I'm sorry, going from Patience and Layla all the way through all of these people, and not one of them has said, you need to forgive your, like, I just, they were just like, we just have to have Spencer say something different, and I'm like, we don't need to
We
have
don't
Spencer say
have to,
something
writers. We don't have
different.
to.
We
So
don't.
here us audience, we're not blaming Spencer. At this point, I'm blaming the
Yeah, at
writers.
this point, I'm blaming the writers on that, because it's just
He didn't
like
have to go
he
that far.
didn't need to say something extra. Like he could have just reiterated what
What
everybody
everyone
else
else
has
said.
been saying. And frankly, like he could have been in the middle. He didn't have to be the end. He could have
Yep,
been.
he did not
And I
have to be
understand.
there.
Like, yes, I know how TV works. I know that he's a protagonist, and I'm saying from a writer's perspective, that conversation at the end could have been given to Jordan, because that was the conversation that was the longest time coming. And actually, it would have made sense, because you think, like, Layla and Liv had that conversation in 418. Laura and Liv had that conversation. What was it, like 417 or
Yeah, 417.
416? Yeah, 416. 416. Me, Mung, Jordan.
Yeah,
Um,
we know Jerry sucked for
and
416.
so those were like closing the loops and coming back and referencing those conversations that she's had with them, and she's also had all these conversations with Spencer. So I think that conversation with Jordan was really like was
It
really the one.
it really would have been the one too, considering what Jordan did at the end. So it would have
Yeah,
led right into his last part with Spencer
yeah,
if it would have ended
exactly,
up being him and Liv on
exactly.
campus.
And so
So
this
it would have
this
definitely.
this finna be
I
a two-part podcast.
Yeah, sorry, we're sorry, fans. I like this Bolivia scene because I liked also because what
I liked it too. I just would have done
yeah, we
without
just
the,
is that one
literally the
piece.
only thing that I did
Yes,
not appreciate was
yeah,
the
it's the piece. The
forgiveness.
one thing too is that one thing that made me like about this Bolivia scene is that it shows how each of them are still can still be there for each other. Because what
Hmm.
irritated me on Twitter is that certain account that belongs to All American was like he will always be there, and I'm like, she will always be there for him too. Stop playing games. It's not a one sided relationship, and I'm gonna need
Yeah,
people to stop looking at it that way before I start dragging people through
yeah.
Twitter. So I'm just like to say that
I
it
do
is
think,
a
and and
reciprocal
to your
relationship.
point, is like she started that conversation with encouraging him about
Right. Hmm.
his football, like, everything going on with GAU.
Right. Very much so.
And so that's that. Speaking of everything going on with GAU, there was a scramble. Look, it was in GAU football was in shambles, because they was finna get the death.
Shambles
They
and
were
Morris
not
looked
sure if
so
they were
good
gonna get
coming
the
to the
death penalty. Morris Chestnut back saying some stuff about football.
looking good at the podium.
And yeah, he was at the podium having his little press conference, and the team, the GAU team, especially the older guys on the team, the junior, they had to be juniors, because I feel like seniors who transfer can't even play, right?
Right. They
Anyway,
can't. They
uh,
can't unless they go ask for an additional year. But go ahead.
okay, so yeah, they had to be like the juniors on the team were essentially like putting their clothes in a pile to be like, I'm packing it up. I'm done with this program. I'm trying to focus on getting to the NFL. I need to do what I got to do to get to the NFL. Because I'm not trying to stay around to figure out how things are shaking out. So Jordan says, explain to me why our jerseys are not in that pile. And, for me, I was just like, Jordan, I also need Spencer to explain to me
I
why their
really do.
jerseys are not in that pile. And here's the thing. So the whole episode was about the program being in jeopardy. Kenny was talking about he might not come back. And Spencer just goes, he has quietly, and I've been saying this subtly in the episodes that are leading up to this, he has quietly taken off the Superman cape for these 6 episodes that we've
Oh,
had
he's
before
putting it
this
back
one.
on hardcore
And
now.
that's what no, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying in this episode, I said the 6 episodes leading up to this. In this 7th episode, he put back on the Superman cape in a big way because he's
So
over
he
here like, it's gonna be us and Kenny, talking about him and Jordan as a we, talking about Faith sees was not there to Morris Chestnut. I
holding,
don't what's
holding
his
his
name,
mama like somebody
Rick.
cares. Look.
Right. Like Grace is in town for a few days because she, senses her son is in distress. Like, what? And then he's talking about, oh, I can't go to Billy because Coach can't be there for everything. Ends up going to Billy anyway.
Because Grace was like, go talk to Billy. They know
Yeah.
each other, blah, blah, blah.
And then,
Right.
Spencer tells Billy that Kenny is his connection to Corey, and to quote. To quote some of my favorite, some of the funniest Twitter accounts, and is the connection to Corey in the room with us right now? Because what?
They're like, Billy is not a connection at all, but that's okay.
Well, no,
Go
no, no.
ahead.
Here's the thing, and that's what I'm saying. Like, first of all, I was just like, the strongest point for this whole Kenny having kind of connection to Corey thing was when Kenny was first on our screens. Since
Right.
then, they
There's
haven't
nothing
had conversations about Corey
at all.
at all. Kenny has been. I just brought this up in the last episode. I forgot that Kenny was even a crucial person, like in this
Oh, I
story,
didn't. Because I'm over it.
because they have not given him the breadth of what it means to be a central character, even as a guest star. Even as a guest
Right.
star, they have not given him what it takes to. Like, I feel like Cliff Mosley was a more influential character, even though he wasn't in a ton of episodes and even though he popped up every now and again. He was a more influential character than Kenny has been.
That is true. That is so true.
And it's not, and again, it's not even in the number of scenes, but it's like in the content and the quality of
That he
those
was brought into
scenes.
to the show.
And
Yeah.
here's the thing, I'll even use somebody who's a more recent example who has like had essentially kind of like the same amount of screen time as Kenny has had, if we're being real, up until recently. Jamie.
I
Jamie
knew
is a
you was about to
more
say that.
consequential character than
Yeah.
Kenny has been, and she still has the same quality of writing with the limited scenes that she has. And that's what I'm just like, so when I say, is the connection to Corey in the room with us right now, we have not been given this, like, he may as well be another coach that Spencer is just cool with. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not understanding why Spencer was on this rescue mission to make Kenny the coach when it's like,
I think because Kenny was the one who got him to GAU, and I think he only sees Kenny as a college coach, and he's not really seeing Billy as such at that point because he had not gone to that level. So he's only seeing who can be my college coach, who can be my guy, as Jordan had talked about, who is his. He's like, Kenny's our guy, and when Jordan comes to realization that's not the case with him, but we'll talk about that later. Um, so that's why I think his connection is also Spencer tends to hold your breath, people. He tends to clutch onto people and hold on
clutch
to people.
onto them for dear
Clutch onto
life.
them the minute they give him the attention that he needs. They need to give him, and that says a lot to do with his abandonment issues. I know I hear
I
y'all
love
right
how we
now.
always have to caveat that.
We
Yes,
had to caveat that because
we
not the fans
understand
gonna
that
say it throughout
Spencer
the
had,
comments.
and I think here's the thing. We caveat it, but I also feel like we also sometimes use it as a catch-all
Yes, for anything that
for
Spencer
giving
does.
him, for giving him a pass. And like,
And giving him a
this
grace.
one, it's
I'm
really,
not giving him a grace in this.
no,
I'm
no,
just
no. I
giving it
know,
to
but
mention it
that's
to
what
you.
I'm saying. For
Yeah.
this episode, I was just like, I'm not gonna do. And again, I understand his history. I understand the context of his character. But for me and this episode, Spencer as a character, and I'm not even talking about the writing at this point. I'm talking
Right.
Spencer as a character. You have not shown me that you have this connection to Kenny that you're portraying right
That you
now.
have. Right. Understandable. That's so that's
And I
true.
think like that's different because it's just like even in you people can call it writing whatever, but like even in this show, like he may as well have a better connection with Jamie that he like, or the similar a similar connection that he has with Jamie to Kenny right now. It's just like someone in his orbit that he knows. Like I don't know, like
Once Spencer sees there's a in Spencer's eyes, once he sees there's a connection of some way, or he can see that you can fit in his world, basically, you can fit in his world. He's gonna latch on to you because
yeah,
even
Davita. Davita is a great example of
yep,
this as well. I know. Oh, I know one girl on campus, and now she's like
right.
showing him the parties and da. And so it's just like
It's whenever he can latch on to people, which you will see in the second half of the season. He likes to latch on.
he likes to latch on. For
He
people
likes to
and for people that hate it, right? He's latching on to who? Alicia
Alicia.
right now.
He likes to latch on in more ways than one. We'll talk about that. We'll talk
And
about
so
that.
and this is why I'm saying I don't think it's, quote unquote, bad writing in this sense. I really think this is the character because it's like it's not just he's not just doing this for Kenny, right?
Right.
And I'm saying he's not just latching on to Kenny. He's latching on to a ton of characters that we've seen that he doesn't necessarily need to latch on to.
Yeah, and people need to realize too is that Spencer's still a first year student. So he's still in a new environment and everything. So the fact of the matter is that as everything is imploding, he was latching on to Jordan. Like me and Jordan are gonna do this. I was like, have you spoken to Jordan? Like, have you really talked to Jordan?
Period. And
It was
you know what? And let's pause right there and let's get to Jordan because I said like, meanwhile, Jordan,
right. Yeah, that's how I saw
as
that
he's
segment.
saying like me and Jordan, we referring to them as a we, which I'll get to that in a second. Um, Jordan is like we said at the top. He's just like explain to me why our jersey is not in that pile. He starts getting calls from other colleges. Sorry, I need and let me pause on the pause right now. Just because we saw Jordan talking or getting phone calls from others and he talked to Asher about that does not mean that Spencer did not get those calls because
I agree.
Spencer was singularly focused on getting Kenny to be the coach, which is
So he was
why
probably ignoring anybody he was
he
trying
was
to call him.
probably ignoring calls. And sure, we could have been like, whatever. They could have showed him wanting to ignore the calls, but he was in and out of meeting. He was literally talking to Billy, Kitty, like he was talking to a lot of characters. Like it's not. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think that that's a big deal that they did. I think we can infer that he also got calls. So
Very
anyway,
much so.
pressing play. Um, Other colleges called to recruit him, and then Asher, who Montez in the
The coach
previous
of the
episode,
century for some reason.
yeah, which I don't know. I like Montez. Montez is
No,
cool,
I'm
man.
talking
He
about
brings a
Asher,
good
the coach
vibe.
of the
Oh
century.
yeah, coach of the season exactly. Oh
Yeah,
no, I was talking about Montez. Montez is a
yeah.
cool coach.
He is a cool
But
coach.
uh, Montez, who had tried to essentially recruit Spencer and Jordan, and Asher pumped the brakes, and he was just like, if they come to me, that's a different story, but I'm not going to go to them. And so Jordan comes and talks to Asher about other colleges recruiting him, and he's just like, Asher's like, oh, well, if you're going to open your transfer portal, then listen, Coastal
Is here
would
for
love
you.
to have you. Would love to have you.
Like, we got you. We
We
so
got
here
you,
for
man.
you.
We got you. So they have that conversation. Jordan is sort of trying to figure out where he's going. He also calls his girlfriend, right? Calls Layla up and is just like,
Shows
listen,
up. They're sitting across from each other.
sitting across from each other. Her smile was so big when he entered the room. Anyway, she shows
I'm gonna
up. They're
let you do
sitting.
your daily life.
They're
Do
they're they're holding hands. He gets lost in her hands. Yeah, I had to say that. Add
it.
extra little extra little. Wait, my favorite meme right now is this one has a little sweetness to it.
I saw that on Twitter. I saw that. Go ahead.
So anyway, backtrack. He enters. Like I said, she's really happy about it, excited. She has a big smile on her face. She was watching Patience is live, which was hilarious
Yeah,
because
and
she was
Patience
also
was up
dealing with that
upstairs sleeping.
upstairs sleeping. And how do we know that? Because Jordan asked her about her day. So they go from talking about everything that's going on with Patience. They've been updating each other to, okay, she's just like, okay, we're done talking about my day. What's going on with you and GAU? So then he goes into the fact that colleges have offered him some positions.
Some opportunities.
And what does she say? She says, oh, plot twist.
Yep.
plot twist. And she was just like, so are you gonna transfer? What are you gonna do? And he's just like, I don't know, I'm still thinking about it. Obviously it would be really cool to go in and like there's a lot of great opportunities, but I'm also thinking about what that means for us. And he's
For
just like, and
us,
I don't.
what, long distance?
Yeah, I was about to say it. It was just like,
Okay.
I don't know if I'm ready to do the whole long distance thing with us right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes in and she's just like, yeah, well, I don't know. It could be, not that I wouldn't miss our like long walks on the beach and stuff, but it could be easier to keep our secret thing a secret if that happens. And it's like a whole like, yeah, but then she says, which is what we're getting back to, she says this to him, and I think it had triple meaning. She says
I
this.
agree.
She says, whatever you decide to do, I don't want you to stay out of some
Lord.
misguided sense of loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I wouldn't want you to feel that way. Wouldn't want my artist to feel that way. So they sort of in that them as a couple, they end that on a little down note, I'd say,
Mm-hmm.
because you could see both of them were sort of sad at the end of that, right? Then we'll get into the triple meaning of what Layla said. So as we mentioned, Layla's, I wouldn't want my artist to feel that way. That was also directly related to patience as well,
Correct.
and like the sense that she wouldn't want patience to stay out of loyalty for her.
Right.
I'm
If this
also
is
gonna
not
say,
best for her career.
huh?
If it's not best for her career, and if that's
It,
something she doesn't want.
if
Correct.
it's not best for her and it's
Yeah.
something that she no longer wants. Obviously, she meant it on the surface level of like, I don't want you to stay at GAU just for me in our relationship. If you really want to pursue this other thing, like if you really think like this other opportunity is going to be better for you, I don't want you to stay just for our relationship.
I'm with you on those two.
The
What's your third
third
one?
thing, the third thing, the triple meaning that people might not have caught under the surface
And I bet
is
you I
that
caught
it
it.
then goes to what Jordan says to Spencer at the end of the episode, and really like, as he's considering like what to do, because the loyalty thing also applies to Spencer. Out of some, I don't think it wasn't on the surface like that advice on the surface wasn't about Spencer and Jordan, but underneath the surface it was about Spencer and Jordan, because it's just like, Jordan, you should also not stay out of some misguided loyalty to Spencer just because he thinks of you two as a unit. You
Ooh.
should
You went in
really
one
do.
direction. I didn't. Go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, so what was your third thing?
Go ahead. Finish it. I'll tell
Oh,
you my
okay.
third.
So yeah, for me that was thinking again. It wasn't on the surface, and I, don't even know if like Layla knew that Spencer was like talking about them as a we at that point. But her piece of advice, I think, also pushed Jordan at the end of it to say like, if I'm not even gonna stay out of a misguided sense of loyalty to my, new relationship that's just getting off the ground or whatever, and not even, when she's lately saying like, I don't even want this to be the relationship that I have with my artist, why would I also like just try to stay out of this like my brotherhood with Spencer, because it's not, even if it's not what's best for me. And then we get to that thing where we're pressing play back on us talking about the whole death penalty thing.
Yeah.
Billy does in turn help Spencer.
One
Jordan's missing
second.
for a lot
One
of it.
second. Can I go to my third?
Yeah, what's your third?
I thought my third, and what Layla's saying out of some blind sense of loyalty, has also to do with her abandonment issues, and that was underneath that she probably didn't expect him to stay, and instead of getting her heart broken.
Quadruple meaning. Okay.
Yes, that's what I had that in there. Me and Erica, shout out to Erica if she listens. We
But
were
I thought,
talking
I
about that on
see
Twitter.
that the her abandonment issues, I thought is like it goes. I didn't say it on the surface, but I that's what I included that in the
Yeah,
surface level meaning of what she said when she
yeah,
said, I don't want it
because
to be out of a sense of misguided loyalty to
yeah,
me.
because Erica, Kat, and I were talking about that on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, we were on the same wavelength, so we were on the same. It was just included in my triple, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I was all right. Go ahead
No,
then.
no, 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 no. I'm saying, but you're. I love that you like made that clear, because obviously it does have to talk about abandonment. Other people have abandonment issues on this
I
show.
told
Layla is
you. I
one of
told
those
you.
people.
Me and Layla may be beefing for the rest of our lives, but I still look out for her.
She has no beef
Yes,
with
she
you, Monda.
does. We be beefing.
Anyway,
But I still look out for her because I wish the best for her. One of the things, though, can I just say something before we go into Billy? Because I'm not really happy. I don't care about him. Helping Spencer is that when Lele was like, we can keep this a secret if he was to go, if he it was a long distance relationship. I'm like, why are we doing this, Lele? I'm like, you should live out loud. I was like, live out loud, Lele. Live out loud. If you are happy with this man, do it.
I
So
had that thought when I first watched the episode, and I'm glad that you brought that back up again because I meant to say
yes, live
this.
out loud.
Uh, Her saying that, I think, was um, again, and I alluded to it when I said that they ended that on a downbeat because she's saying this thing. She's saying like, oh, and we could be easier to keep the secret, da da da. But if you're listening to or looking at her face while she's saying this,
Right.
it's not happy, right? Like she
It's
wants him
not
to stay.
happy.
She wants him to stay, but she also you know doesn't know how to quite tell him that yet.
Right.
And it's like that they're uh in those beginning stages where you like hide a little bit because you don't want to like mess things up, or you know what I mean. So it like she's saying these things and she said the secret, but genuinely think this time around it wasn't even necessarily about the secret. It was just about like she didn't even know how to say like, no, but I want you to stay.
Right.
So yes, and that also has to do with her abandonment issues.
Abandonment issues.
Um,
Okay. Next
so
one.
yes, so moving on back to Billy and Spencer. Billy helps Spencer because of course it's his son, his only
Yeah.
child,
His only child.
and Kitty comes to dinner. He was wearing the most ugly. He looked like a coach, like
He should
someone
look
who
like a
doesn't
coach.
know how to dress
That's how the
outside of
coaches be
coaching. And
looking.
because I was just like, why is this man wearing a sports jacket? And by sports jacket, I mean blazer. Why is this man wearing a sports jacket and a sweater underneath? It is the most
That's
disgusting
how they dress.
combination. I know it's how they dress, but I was just like, it was so cringy to me. It was so cringy. But I appreciated it. It was like that's something that the character would wear. So it was that, but I was just like, it's just gross. Anyway, along with Jordan's gross cardigan that just was awful. I was like, do not ever appear in that cardigan ever again in your life. Had to go on that fashion aside. Um, but anyway, he got an interview. They said they were gonna see how it goes. Um, it was really trash that there was no Liv, Layla, or Patience at family dinner. We already talked about that, but
Yeah, because Coop can go ahead and just move back to the beach house.
she can go ahead and move that to the beach house. She can
She
go
can
back
move
and
to the beach house where we
move to the
want her to
beach
be.
house. Um. Anyway, Jordan finally comes to back to the beach house as like family dinner is ending, and you know, Jordan has this conversation with Spencer after Spencer's been like, "Where you been, man? You been screening my calls and this and that," and they have a really great conversation. And I
Jordan
put
spoke
here
to
like Jordan and
facts.
Spencer finally talk because it wasn't just finally talk about, you know, through this episode and the events of this episode, but it's something that you and I have actually
Oh,
detailed quite a bit about this Jordan Spencer relationship, especially with Billy as like an add-on to this, and that like that dynamic between the three of them.
the truth that Jordan was speaking. I swear, I said somebody has probably was listening to me and Lexi at one point in our podcast or
Literally.
something
What
because they were
and the
speaking
thing is, and
facts.
I appreciate it, no, seriously, because when Jordan, first of all, it was one of the most like heartfelt. Again, Jordan had like the scene with Liv, uh and this scene here was just such a good. This was probably my favorite scene of the entire football storyline,
I
um
agree. I agree.
because it was a long time coming, this conversation that Jordan was having with Spencer. And to your point about they must have been listening to our conversations, because not only did he go back and say, at Beverly, I was not my dad's guy,
You were.
you
Mm-mm.
were. And this is after he was just like, he's your guy, he's not my
Right.
he's not my guy.
Right.
And it was just like, okay, well, say how you feel, Jordan. But I really want to break this down because
Right,
he
break
was
it
just
down.
like, he was angry, but then he like calmed down a bit to like explain to Spencer, I wasn't even my dad's guy.
The man who gave birth to me, I wasn't even his guy. But go ahead.
Wasn't even his guy.
Mm-mm-mm.
I wasn't. And then onto that, right? He was just like, and then when my dad followed you to Crenshaw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Followed you to Crenshaw. I
Montez
wasn't
guy.
even Montez's guy. Asher was
Who
her guy.
was? Mm-mm-mm.
And I'm so glad they brought that up because that's something that they've sort of like just sort of, I'm not going to say jumped over, but they hadn't addressed it until now. And
Right,
I'm
they
very
just glazed
excited.
over it.
They
Yeah.
just glazed over it, and they finally brought it back with this conversation. I think it honestly good for them for bringing it back for this conversation, because it was just like he's been stewing on this for a while. Is like, I wasn't even Montez's in high school's guy
Right.
when you left. Asher was. And then
I
to bring
get
it
to
back
college.
around and then to say,
Mm.
and
Mm-mm.
I'm not Kenny's guy either.
Before that, he said I wasn't Garrett. He said I wasn't Garrett's guy.
I
Wade
wasn't
was.
Garrett. I wasn't Garrett's guy.
Wade was. He was like, let me show. Like he basically said, Spencer, let me walk you through my career in football and what it's been
Literally.
like for me, in case you
Literally.
haven't noticed.
Exactly. Um,
Everybody was chosen over me,
everybody.
and
And
this
he's
has
just
been
like,
my life work since I was young, just
life
as it's
work.
been yours.
Just period. What did he say? I've been playing football since I was like 12 or something
Yes,
like that,
just as it's been yours, it has been mine.
or 6 years old. It was some really really
Yeah,
young
very
age,
young
and
age.
so it was wild to see Jordan talk about it like that, because he's never talked about it in that way. And I was like, look at Layla's influence on you, girl. And here's I know you're gonna laugh, but no, seriously, because think about this fact. Even even hold on, even
Okay.
Simone said to him, to Jordan's face, in 418, Spencer has always been the star on the field. And as we referred back
And
to
basically
the
told him he needed
widest,
to accept it. But go ahead.
yeah, and told him he needed to accept it. And as we went back all the way to like 405 or something, when he was just like, how come nobody sees me as great? And Liv interviewed Spencer and interviewed Simone. And so it was just like this whole time he's been feeling that he is not adequate. Even GW, as big of a cheerleader for Jordan as GW was, he still was just like, "Meh." And Spencer,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And Spencer's
Yeah,
the
because
guy. And
GW
Spencer's
had
the
his eyes
guy.
on Spencer too in some kind of way. But go ahead,
In
yep.
some kind of way. And so for that to come through in this full circle moment of him like explaining all of this, because I will say, again, there's been one person that we've seen sort of
I cannot.
I'm just speaking facts here, that says, you are one of the best players out there, right? Like, you've led your team to championships, XYZ. And him, on his own, right? I'm not just accrediting it to Layla, but I'm saying on his own, but with the help of someone who is very important to him,
Can
and
I
who,
can I add live into that conversation
yeah,
because
you can add Lib into that conversation
yeah,
as
I
well.
would say live that conversation with Liv saying that you did the work too. So
That conversation that Liv said, but again, I don't even think it hit him with Liv up until they had that conversation, and she said that
right.
she was proud. So yes, it was Liv too, but Liv for him finally being like, I'm proud of you, and I do see you as great. Like that conversation that she wanted to have with him in 416, where she was like, we've known that she's felt this way, but for her to say it to Jordan, and for
Which
him to receive it,
which means so much to Jordan because as much as Jordan wants like Billy's acceptance, what Liv thinks of him and what his
matters.
mom thinks of him is so
It
important. But
matters.
particularly Liv, it matters. It matters to him.
Yeah. And so, he was just like, well, dang, like, Liv is proud of me. Like, Layla's saying, like, just don't stay for me if this is what you really want. Like, maybe, let me listen to
Maybe
these
I
women.
should go and look for me.
I should look for me. And has this conversation with Spencer. I want to find my guy. I want to be somebody's guy. And then Spencer has a whole conversation with Grace about like, I can't rebuild GAU without
Without Jordan.
without Jordan. But then obviously Jordan ends up putting his
Jersey ain't far.
Also, Grace talking about I talked to Jordan and he's not sure if he's made up his mind. I'm like, Grace, don't talk to Jordan.
First of all, I'm tired of that woman insinuating that she knows my twins. I'm gonna need you to
Exactly, like,
stop.
girl, like,
You
please,
don't you don't get
calm
down
down.
like that. I'm tired of you speaking for my twins. If you ain't my mama Laura, you need to hush. I'm gonna be very
Literally.
honest right now. But go
No,
ahead.
for fact, these are because it was just like that was such a just don't speak on it. Just don't
Don't
speak
speak
on
on
it.
my
Don't
twins.
speak
I'm
on
just
it.
tired. You be playing in people's face. Don't speak for my
Literally
twins.
playing at people's like, and it's just like, and it's also just like you're going to say whatever ends up
For your
making Spencer
son.
because that's your son and as it should be. But it's
Right,
just
as
like
you
don't
should. But don't
don't
speak for my twins.
and it's like don't try to speak for them because it was
Right.
her saying like, oh, it didn't seem like he made up his mind or whatever. So anyway, that just was annoying to me. But anyway, so
Mm.
he ends up putting his jersey in the pile, ends up leaving. They have this hug moment at the end, and it's that Jordan made his decision. This is also something that I wanted to say really quickly, and then we'll get to the end. Um, Jordan, this is. I'm glad that Jordan sort of severed this tie for the time being, right? I'm sure they'll come
Mhm.
back together at some point. But I'm glad that Jordan severed this tie for the time being because this is also something that for a lot of people that says like Jordan brings Spencer down, this is your opportunity, right? They're going to be apart, right? They're rebuilding this like Crenshaw Beverly dynamic, right? With
Dynamic in
GAU
the
and,
form
and sort
of
of
GAU
Coastal.
possible coastal.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because do you remember I said this, Monda? I was just like, why is Spencer telling Jordan to exercise because he wants to exercise?
Right. Like Spence Jordan is not you, sir.
Jordan is not you. And so I think this is gonna go a long way to like having Spencer say like, I know you want to hold on, like we've been talking about, right? I know you want to hold on and clutch, attach because of because of what you grew up with and because of your abandonment issues, but that's not how people work all the time.
Not much at all. I would like to see, we can talk about this more in predictions, that if he ends up going to coastal, Asher has already been Jordan's guy if people pay attention. Because in high
Okay,
school,
we're getting there.
we'll talk about that in predictions.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Billy gets offered the job at Coastal. So predictions.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to Film Study, an All American Universe podcast, and stay tuned for the next episode.